In the words of my colleague, the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Savage, may this time of worship celebrate what we know at our core. Blessings are real and ours to claim and radiate. Blessings are abundant and ours to revel in and pass along. Blessings are transformational and ours to be challenged by as we grow towards the faith that we know we can be. Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome. I understand that the people who were here for the choir breakfast had a very exciting start to their day. I just want to say that as I was walking out of my house this morning, our fire alarm went off as well, our smoke alarm. I have no idea why, but it must have been kismet. We are here to celebrate this morning connections. We are here to celebrate blessings, the blessings of rainbows, the blessings of flowers, the blessings of responsive fire departments. All sorts of blessings are we here to celebrate this morning. And we are glad that you are here, whether you are here for the first time or the 1,000th time, whether you are here in person for the first time in the sanctuary for a while, or whether you've been coming all along, whether you are joining us on Zoom, we are glad that you are here. This is the final formal worship service of this 2021-2022 year. We have made it, folks. What a year it has been, and we are glad that we are still standing at the end of it. We are glad to be here together. There will be a break next week from worship, and then the following week, on the 26th of June, the General Assembly public worship service will be streamed live through the GA website. You'll get more information about that if you'd like to attend at 12:30 Eastern Time on that Sunday. No registration for GA required. Everybody welcome. More information will be forthcoming about summer informal worship opportunities and other opportunities to gather, so stay tuned for that. The most important things I want to tell you today are about the annual meeting, which is happening today at noon, that you can attend via Zoom or in person in the common room if you prefer. This is the annual meeting of the congregation where big decisions get made, and we hope that you are able to join us for that. In 2 weeks, there will be a special meeting to elect the search committee for the senior minister search process, and so I hope that you'll also stay tuned for more information about that. And I want to let you know that coffee hour is happening outside after the service, and that you are invited to join the Faith Development Committee for bagels and feedback after the worship service before the annual meeting outside. Families, kids, youth, teachers, all are welcome to come to that session, and we hope that you will. I think that those are the announcements that I have for this morning. And so I'd like to invite you to join me, if you would, by rising in spirit or in body and joining in saying the words of our unison affirmation together, first in English and then in Spanish. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor, y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. You may be seated.
Good morning. It's so good to be here with you all this morning and to celebrate my first flower communion with this lovely community. The flower communion is a ritual that we use to celebrate our connections with one another amongst the beauty of nature that we bring into our sanctuary. And in this ritual, each person brings a flower to the service, and if you have forgotten a flower today, do not concern yourself. We have brought extras. And then everybody leaves with a flower, symbolizing the sharing required of a free people in a free religion. The Unitarian tradition of flower communion first entered our faith tradition on June 4th, 1923, by Dr. Norbert Čapek, who founded the modern Unitarian Church in Prague, Czechoslovakia. And he wished to create a ceremony to bind the community together without turning to the traditional Christian rituals of the traditional Christian communion. So along with his wife, the Reverend Maya Čapek, Dr. Čapek looked to the natural beauty surrounding his community for inspiration, and he invited all of his membership to bring a flower from their home or the field or the roadside and bring it with them to come into community together as a ritual. In 1940, Reverend Maya Čapek brought the ceremony to our congregation just down the road in Cambridge, Massachusetts, from where it spread like morning glory vines throughout congregations across the continent very rapidly. And Unitarian Universalists have used flowers as a symbol of love and peace and diversity. And in recent decades, we have woven our sixth principle into this binding ritual, which holds up the goal of world community, peace, liberty, justice for all. In celebrating this floral abundance, we illustrate that even though we are all different, even though we all have our own spiritual paths, even though we are all beautiful and special in our own individual, unique ways, just like each and every flower, we are still one community, one bouquet, one celebration of color. And later in this service, we will dedicate our flowers in prayer. But for now, I see that there might be some flowers that people have brought over on the windowsills. Are those flowers that have been brought? May I ask some of our young people, perhaps Thalia or Nora or my kiddos, can we get those flowers from over there and bring them up here to add to our bounty? And while they are helping in that way, if the vases are heavy, maybe we find, Vivi, can you find a light one for Vinny? You know, Vinny, there's a light one way back there. Keep going, 1, 2, 3 windows. Vinny, follow Thalia, she's gonna help you out. Okay, thank you. So later when we dedicate the flowers, we will do so in prayer together. Thank you for the assist, Brad. But first, I would like to share briefly the words that Čapek used for the consecration of the flowers. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. And in celebration of blooms, I now invite you to rise in body or in spirit, including those of you at home on Zoom. Please rise in body or spirit to join in singing the Sweet June Days, number 65 in your gray hymnal or in your order of service.
So as Lisa Maria said, the flowers that have been collected and brought forward this morning are a symbol of, in part, the beauty and the blessing of diversity and the inherent worth and dignity of each one of us. And when we gather them together, they become a symbol of the congregation as a whole family, one bouquet, gathered together in beauty. This morning we reflect on the blessings in our own lives. We've all experienced blessings this year. As Dr. Emma Sapala has written, if we have a roof over our head, a couple of meals a day, are educated enough to read the article that she's writing about blessings, and have access to a computer and the internet, we have received more opportunities, material goods, and education than the majority of people in this world. In fact, research suggests that, in general, we actually have 3 times more positive experiences than negative ones. This is true here in this congregation, too, my friends. We have a roof over our head in this beautiful sanctuary. We have other sizable endowments, other assets. We have staff and volunteers who provide worship and faith formation every week. And we have the greatest asset of all, which is you, right? A community of people who strive to love one another and the world and to live according to our shared values. What a wonderful blessing this community is. Unfortunately, it can be all too easy to get caught up in the negative and to forget to appreciate our many blessings. Our perspective, we are told by scientists, is biased toward the negative, and psychologists believe that this may, in fact, have had a survival benefit, helped our species survive by highlighting potential dangers to avoid. And that's good, right? We want to avoid pitfalls and dangers where we can, but we do not want to fail to appreciate the blessings that we have. And so this morning, we want to offer you an opportunity to reflect on the blessings that you have received this year from your participation in this congregation. We want to ask you to consider what is the most lovely gift, or one of them, that you have received through your time here. Whether you've been participating remotely or in person. And it doesn't need to be something big. It can be quite small. Some small connection, some learning, some opportunity, some reminder. For those of you who are in the sanctuary, you should have received one of these. If anyone did not, please raise your hand and we will make sure that one gets to you. Little flower-shaped or sunburst-shaped cards of various colors. And hopefully you also received a pencil. And if you didn't, we have those too to share. What I'd like to invite you to do during this next piece of music, which is another blessing that we will enjoy, is to use these papers and these pencils to jot down something, some lovely gift that you've received, some blessing from your participation in this community. Write it down there just briefly, and we will be collecting them later to be shared along with these flowers. Just as you may have brought one flower in, but we'll be taking out another, we will invite you to share in a kind of a communion of these blessings as well, to turn one in and to take out another as a reminder of the blessing of this community. And if you are online and don't have one of these beautiful bright pieces of paper and a pencil, we'd like to invite you to participate in this as well during this time of music, to share in the chat some gift or blessing that you have experienced here at First Parish in Bedford this year as well. So thank you. And I invite you to do that reflection and sharing now as we enjoy this song.
Our offertory piece this morning that the choir will be singing is called Safe Places of the Heart. And indeed, one of the things we try to be in this community, in this congregation, is a safe place for our hearts. And particularly this weekend, in this month, we remember that it is Pride Month and all of the beautiful celebratory joy we see. And on this day, we also remember that 6 years ago, there was a shooting in a gay nightclub in Florida that cost so many beautiful, vibrant lives. And so we hold that balance, the joy and the celebration and the safe places for hearts that we work so hard to carve out. The joy I feel when our youth gather and so easily share pronouns, don't bat an eye when someone comes back from summer break with a different name. And we also hold the fear and grief of the world we live in that is still not a safe place for many, many people in many, many places. I invite you to give generously this morning to our offering, to sustain a community that works hard to make our community safe in our hearts, but also works to make this whole world the safe place it needs to be. And we will also collect your gifts that you have written down with this morning's offering as well, if you are here in the sanctuary. Now is the time in our flower communion ceremony to dedicate these flowers and these gifts that you have shared. The text we'll be using does come also from Norbert Chapek, but we added an updated version. This has become a mini tradition of a couple years now at First Parish. And so we read his words followed by our own. In the name of the providence, which implants in the heart of the seed the future of the flowers, and which implants in our hearts that unrest which will not be quenched till people live lovingly with each other, we bless these flowers. We bless these flowers in the name of that big creative power that moves all living things toward flourishing. That same love which keeps our hearts troubled enough that we strive toward building a more loving and inclusive community.
In the name of the highest, in which we move and take our being, and in the name of the deepest, which makes father and mother, sister and brother, lover and loner who they are, we bless these flowers. We bless these flowers in the name of our own beautiful, colorful souls, the power of which makes us parent, child, sibling, dreamer, and doer.
In the name of the prophets and sages who sacrificed their lives to hasten the coming of the reign of mutual respect, we bless these flowers. We bless these flowers in the name of any and all who have ever in any way helped to make the world a kinder, gentler, fairer place for all, especially when it has taken extra time, energy, or courage to get it done.
Let us renew our resolution sincerely to be brothers and sisters regardless of the barriers that estrange. We double down on our efforts to live truly as siblings, though we know there are many challenges to overcome to live lovingly with all.
May these flowers for us sign of the glory and variety to which we aspire, knowing the whole while that we are one family, the family of spirit and nature. May these blooms remind us of the glory of every bit of creation, the infinite diversity of all peoples, and the deep knowledge that we are one human family entwined with our spirits and with nature.
In this holy resolve, may we be strengthened by the spirit of love that we ourselves may bloom in splendor of a joyful life and endeavor to be ever more perfect in our days. We are sure that this is how we want to live, respecting and protecting the worth and dignity of all. May love and our commitment to living lovingly strengthen us, transform us, bring us joy, and make us whole.
May it be so, and amen.
Another Year is a piece that Dean Groves wrote in the 90s. 80s, 70s? Do I hear 70s? No, 80s. And we started the tradition of including it in our end of the year services probably about 15 years ago. I think it was his wife, Lori, who said, he has this really great song and he's probably going to be very shy about mentioning it. And so anyway, we included it and it proved to be so relevant that we've done it every year since. Even when we were on Zoom, we played a recording of it to make sure it was always there. we do feel it's very relevant all these years later, because there aren't many things that are relevant since middle 1980s, right? But this one still works. And so, you're looking for something?
Once you're done speaking, we'll take that.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah. Here we go. So Dean gets to have my mic. I'm done.
In the words of our beloved Minister Emeritus, to paraphrase John Gibbons, it's not like this every year. But anyway, here we go. 2, 3, 4. "60 seconds make a minute, an hour's 60 minutes long. The day has plenty hours in it, 24 and another's gone. Sun to sun, season to season, time is surely passing by. We're still here, that's the reason that we raise our glasses high. Here's to another year. One more time around the circle, think of all the things we've done. A little rhyme to pass the time. Here's to the journey always ended and never yet begun."
I've seen some years come and go now in my time upon this earth. I've had time to watch the show now, time to ponder what it's worth. Is this day so very special, or is it how we set our sights? May all your days and years to come be just like this one, warm and bright. Here's to another year. One more time around the circle, think of all the things we've done. A little rhyme to pass the time. Here's to the journey always ended and never yet begun. Here's to another year. One more time around the circle, think of all the things we've done. A little rhyme just to pass the time. Here's to the journey always ended and never yet begun. Here's to another year. Here's to another year. Here's to another year.
Here's to another year indeed. And we take a moment at this time in our service to honor the deaths and losses we've had in our community this year. I'll read the names of those members of our congregation who have died in this past church year. Betty Hefner, Howard Herman, Richard Lashak, Bob Lozier, Dave and Ginny Packer, Pat Pellegrini, Merlin Swartz. We honor the ways that they have impacted the life of this congregation. We hold space for all those who continue to grieve their absence. We celebrate their lives, the joy and the love and the good relationships and lessons they leave behind for us. On the other side of the coin are new lives that come into our community. And I want to honor some of the children who were dedicated in this year at the tail end of John Gibbons' ministry, in fact. Tegan Jerry Rabinowitz, Opal Lucia Mai Dorchet, and Henry Howard Dorer were all blessed and dedicated. New lives that came into our extended community. And we celebrate that life persists and that each child is born a unique blessing. We carry on this chain of life in this community, grieving as we must, celebrating what we can, and knowing that each life is so precious and touches so many.
Well, again and again and again, the choir proves a hard act to follow. Thank you for the blessing of your music today and on so many Sundays this year. So every year that I participate in a flower communion ceremony, I am touched and moved by this ritual. It's done in many different ways in many different places, but I'm moved by the ritual and by Reverend Chapek's original message to his people. that he started preaching in 1923. The simple message that each person is as beautiful and wonderful as a flower in bloom. Each one of us possesses an inherent worth, an inherent goodness, and inherent beauty that neither time nor our distance from one another can ever diminish. That was Reverend Chapek's gospel. That was his good news. And as Unitarian Universalists, it is still the heart of our good news today. And I want to remind you that this was a truly radical message in his time. I want to remind you of the part of the story that Lisa Maria didn't tell you this morning, that the Nazi regime of Chapek's day decided that his gospel of inherent worth was too dangerous for the Reich for him to be allowed to continue to preach it. And I want that to sink in. And so they had him arrested for preaching this gospel, and they had him imprisoned. Today, that simple gospel message, the gospel message of the inherent worth of all, that message that each one of us should be treated with dignity, that we should love our neighbors as ourselves, that we are all equal and that we matter, that Black lives matter, that LGBTQ plus lives matter, that trans lives specifically also matter, that brown lives matter and indigenous lives matter, and that the lives of poor people matter, and that immigrant lives matter, that women's lives matter, that children's lives matter, that our elders' lives matter. Make no mistake, that simple message, clear as day to many of us sitting in this room, is as threatening to some powers and peoples today as it was back then. And those systems and those in power who don't like that message will continue to try to silence it. There are still political forces, including elected and appointed officials, that are intent on driving us apart, dividing us and separating us and suppressing us. In his extensive biography of Ulysses S. Grant, which covers in detail both the Civil War and the post-war Reconstruction, Ron Chernow writes that as the Civil War was nearing its end, Ulysses S. Grant and his subordinate generals worried that if the armies of the Confederacy were not crushed, Confederate soldiers would retreat and regroup and form guerrilla bands and continue to fight, extending the war indefinitely. And after the war, Grant focused much of his energy and attention, both as an appointee in the Jackson administration and during his 2 terms as president, on dismantling the original KKK, protecting formerly enslaved peoples and their allies from violence, ending voter suppression efforts, and ensuring voting rights. His post-war efforts were successful to a degree, but the truth is that although the Confederate armies did surrender and the Confederacy did dissolve, the ideology behind it never died. The Civil War ended over 150 years ago, but the battle for the soul of this nation still continues to this day. That truth, if it was not clear before, was brought home during the first of the hearings of the January 6th Commission on Thursday night. The evidence presented that night against those who stormed the Capitol last year was both damning and deeply, deeply disturbing. We are indeed engaged in a battle for the soul of this nation and for democracy itself. And later this month, the Supreme Court will be issuing 29 remaining opinions, including opinions related to the right to carry concealed weapons, including opinions related to the authority of the EPA to regulate carbon emissions, taxpayer funding for religious schooling, and of course the right of women, of people, to make their own decisions related to their health care and their bodies and their lives. Depending on how all these things fall out, Some of these opinions could take us back 50 years or more. So these are difficult times, and this has been a difficult year, a difficult few years for us, for this congregation, for just about every UU congregation that I know. And yet, perhaps never before has our message as Unitarian Universalists been so crucial. At least not since World War II or the end of the American Civil War, not since any one of those other pivotal historical moments when so many lives and human rights were at stake. And so we need to keep sharing the blessing of our radical faith in its worth and dignity, the faith in the worth and dignity of each and the interconnectedness of all of us. We need to keep raising our voices and using our power and privilege to convey our message now more than ever. For victims of gun violence and the loved ones from whom they've been taken, for the trans kids and their families who are under assault in Texas and around the country, for the women without access to health care, for the planet and all the species who inhabit it. We must continue to rise like wildflowers in a field, with all the beauty and the uniqueness and the blessing from one rich soil that nourishes all our lives. We must continue to rise like the organizers and activists who have been a part of every justice movement in this country. We must continue to rise like those who marched in Montgomery and in Selma and DC and Minneapolis and cities and towns all around this country. We must continue to rise like those who marched for their lives yesterday here in Massachusetts and everywhere else in this world. We must continue to join with others in affirming the inherent worth and dignity and beauty and blessing of Black lives and brown lives and trans lives and women's lives, and we must not cease in our defense of this democracy, which is fragile and precious and imperfect and under attack. The formal worship service for this year, this is it. This is the last one, and it's almost over. But we will and we must continue to be together, work together, meet together, love one another, work together on lifting up our voices and our faith. One body, one field of beautiful flowers, one bouquet, continuing to rise in beauty and in love and in justice, a blessing to this community, to one another, and to this world. So may it be. Amen. And blessed be. I'd like to invite you to join in singing our closing hymn this morning. The music and the words are printed in your order of service. Life calls us on, and hope calls us on, and joy calls us on, and beauty calls us on. We have come to the end of our service, nearly so. I want to invite you, any of you and all of you, whether you brought a flower with you this morning or not, to come at the conclusion of the postlude and take a flower of your choice, and also take one of the blessings that was written down on the papers, take those home and hold them close to you as you hold this community close to you as you go out into the summer. May you be filled with the blessings of this covenanted community. May you carry them with you like flowers as you depart from here. May you discover the places in this world where these blessings are most needed, and may you have the courage to share them. May you receive the blessings of those whom you meet along the way. Go in peace and go in love and return again in love. Amen.